Hey, welcome to Crossroads. Folks, with all the recent damage for the hurricanes, there's a lot of debate taking place over where exactly all that FEMA money is going. Now look, relief efforts are still underway from a lot of states that got hit by the hurricane. At least 230 Americans have lost their lives and a lot more lost their homes and their sources of income. Now, the relief efforts on both the FEMA side and on the private citizen side are now bringing focus to a contrast on the government programs for housing and feeding illegal immigrants, and especially to the money that FEMA has in fact spent on those programs. In fact, around $1.4 billion at least. Now, let's go over some of the claims that are coming out, and I want to show you kind of both sides and dig into some of the language. From what I've been seeing, there's a lot of technicality within language, and it seems that they're using that to say that all this is misinformation, when it's not really the case. Now, first off, FEMA has published a page on its own website specifically to address what it calls rumors around the relief efforts for Hurricane Helene. Let me start by showing you what they say, then we'll dig into this. Now, this is the official FEMA website. Hurricane Helene rumor response, they say. They say, help keep yourself, your family, and your community safe after Hurricane Helene by being aware of rumors and scams and sharing official information from trusted sources. They say, do your part to stop the spread of rumors by doing these things. Find trusted sources of information, share information from trusted sources, and discourage others from sharing information from unverified sources. Now, I question what an unverified source is by their definition, but that's a statement, right? Now, look, it then goes on to address some of the different claims that are going around and declares that many of them are false. And I want to go over what they're actually saying and whether or not these claims are actually false. Because from what I've seen, there's a lot of technicalities within the language itself. Now, let me start here. This is FEMA's website. They say, rumor, the FAA is restricting access to the airspace for Helene rescue and recovery operations. They say, fact, the FAA is not restricting access for recovery operations, and they say the FAA is coordinating closely with state and local officials to make sure everyone is operating safely in very crowded and congested airspace. Now look, in my take, as a journalist who's been doing this for, since 2006, you learn to start reading legalese the way that oftentimes through very minor changes in language, they can declare that something is true or false. The important part within that fact check is where they say they're working with officials to, quote, make sure everyone is operating safely in very crowded and congested airspace. And they also say the FAA is, quote, not restricting access for recovery operations. Now, what are they actually saying here, at least in my take? Now, I've seen some mixed claims on this. There actually have been a lot of people posting videos on X or YouTube where you have pilots who are saying, helicopter pilots, who are saying they were blocked from carrying out relief efforts. Many others have actually been using their helicopters to help, and so it is actually mixed. You do have some who say they've been blocked. You do have some who are actively helping them using their helicopters. And what it looks like is that it changes from place to place, different locations at different standards. Some of them are dealing with more crowded airspace, and I think that's the key word here, is they're dealing with crowded airspace, and some areas are restricting it for that reason, at least according to them. Especially, I think, when you get to some of the more remote areas, that seems to be one of the big issues. Now, one of the big claims, though, I think one of the biggest ones going around, is that FEMA is out of money for disasters, and that FEMA was giving hundreds of millions of dollars, in fact, $1.4 billion for the last few years, to house illegal immigrants and feed them and take care of them. And a lot of Americans feel right now that, well, have illegal aliens been treated better than American citizens? Well, on FEMA's side, this is what they're saying. They say FEMA does not have enough money. This is the rumor they say, right? FEMA does not have enough money to provide disaster assistance for Helene. And they say, fact, FEMA has enough money right now for immediate response. Those are the important keywords here. And recovery needs. They say if you were affected by Helene, do not hesitate to apply for disaster assistance, as there is a variety of help available for different needs. Now look, they honestly kind of shot themselves in the foot on this one. The concerns were actually sparked by a statement directly from the chief of the Homeland Security Department, that's Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. He actually said this himself during a press gaggle aboard Air Force One last week. Here's what Mayorkas said, quote, "We are meeting the immediate needs with the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting, the one going to be hitting Florida soon." He says, "We do not have the funds." Quote, "We do not have the funds." That is DHS Secretary Mayorkas himself, a direct quote. He says, quote, "FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season and what is imminent." And so it's a bit strange when you look at it from this perspective. They're saying that it's false that they're out of money. The technicality is in the language. You have to take it in context of the recent fact check from FEMA about this. They say, quote, "FEMA has enough money right now for immediate response and recovery needs." And the key word there is immediate. They're saying basically right now at this current moment, they have enough money to carry out the relief efforts, but they're saying that they will not have it for the rest of the season. And especially with the new hurricane getting ready to hit, they're saying they don't have enough money to take care of that. That's what they're actually saying. And so when people are raising concerns about this, FEMA is out of money, while FEMA's saying, well, we're not out of money right now, right? And that's where the technicality is coming in play. Now, the issue again is whether they have enough money for the long-term relief efforts. Because look, for a lot of people who've had their houses destroyed or have no source of income, they're wondering, where's my family going to stay? Where's my food going to come from? How are we going to take care of ourselves when we have lost everything? And especially in some of the more impoverished areas that have been hit. I mean, even in some of the wealthy areas, people don't always have money to fall back on. Meaning, what are they going to do? That is a challenge they're facing. And for a lot of these individuals, when they look and see the country's taking care of illegal immigrants and housing them and putting them up in fancy hotels in New York City, they wonder, why am I being treated this way and why are non-Americans being treated another way? Now, again, the big question will be that according to Alejandro Mayorkas himself, according to the chief of the Department of Homeland Security himself, while they may have money right now to take care of things within the current environment they're in, which is what he's saying, right? That they might not have it when the next hurricane hits, and that's going to make landfall this week. Now, that brings us to one of the big concerns right now, though. People believe the reason that FEMA does not have enough money is because FEMA was giving money to house and take care of illegal immigrants. And I want to show you the facts on this. I'll be talking about this after I come back from a quick break.
Experts agree. One of the best ways to protect against financial uncertainty is to diversify your portfolio. Learn how physical gold and silver can secure your retirement funds from today's economic challenges. With a gold IRA from American Hartford Gold, you can safeguard your wealth with no penalties or taxes when you transfer your current qualifying retirement accounts. Call now and our precious metals specialists will send you a free information kit, no cost or obligation. American Hartford Gold, a trusted industry leader with an A+ from the Better Business Bureau, has a 5-star rating from thousands of happy clients. Whether you are getting physical precious metals in a gold IRA or delivered to your doorstep, we offer only the highest quality gold and silver. For your peace of mind, we also offer a no-fee buyback commitment, a low-price guarantee, along with free shipping and free insurance. So don't wait. Call the number on your screen today and secure your financial future.
Hey, welcome back. There's some heated debate right now over where the FEMA money is going for the recent hurricane disasters. Now, relief efforts are still underway in states that were hit by Hurricane Helene. At least 227 people have lost their lives so far, and a lot more lost their homes and their sources of income. The relief efforts are now bringing attention to concerns that FEMA may not have the money for the rest of the hurricane season. And people believe the reason that FEMA may not have enough money for the long term is not just the immediate response, they're saying, is because they were giving massive amounts of money to house and take care of illegal immigrants. Now, let me start by showing you the fact check from FEMA, because they're saying that these are false claims. They're saying these are just rumors, and they're trying to get rid of these, right? They say this, rumor, funding for FEMA disaster response was diverted, and this is going to be the key word here, diverted to support international efforts on border-related issues. And they say, fact, this is false. No money is being diverted. Keep in mind that word, diverted. No money is being diverted from disaster response needs. They say FEMA's disaster response efforts and individual assistance is funded through the Disaster Relief Fund, which is a dedicated fund for disaster efforts. Disaster Relief Fund money has not been diverted to other non-disaster related efforts. So look, basically, it is the case they've been given huge amounts of money delegated to them to house and care for illegal immigrants. In fact, around $1.4 billion that's even, on the surface. They're arguing that you can't quite make the comparison since the money for the hurricane efforts and disaster relief, that's coming from a specific, delegated fund, which is the Disaster Relief Fund, which is, delegated differently. They're not diverting the Disaster Relief Fund to go and take care of illegal immigrants. They have a different fund for them, is what they're saying. And they didn't technically divert money between the two programs to give to illegal immigrants. But look, the issue a lot of critics are raising is that FEMA, they get a budget approved by Congress. And when they get a budget approved by Congress, well, look, if they delegate part of their budget to disaster relief and a massive part of their budget to housing and feeding and caring for illegal immigrants, well, they've delegated it. You could argue they didn't divert it, but they delegated it. And that's the argument here. Now look, this has brought a huge amount of attention to the amount of taxpayer money that has in fact been used to support illegal immigrants. And look, let me show you a few of the examples that have been going around. And I'm not just going to pull some random rumors. These are from the official FEMA website and the official website of the Department of Homeland Security. Here is FEMA from March of 2021. It says they awarded $110 million in supplemental humanitarian funding to the National Board for the Emergency Food and Shelter Program, which will distribute this money to NGOs, non-government organizations, and government organizations that have, quote, aided or will aid individuals and families encountered by the Department of Homeland Security at the southern U.S. border. In other words, they're giving the money to house and take care of illegal immigrants. That's one example. There's a lot of others. This is the Department of Homeland Security from August of 2023. They say the DHS through FEMA and CPB, Customs Border Protection, announced more than $77 million in grants to support border and interior communities, meaning not just the border, but also within the United States, communities, quote, receiving migrants through the Shelter and Services Program. And the Shelter and Services Program, notably, is the one getting attention right now because that's the one FEMA is involved with, and that's the one a lot of the money's going to. They say, quote, the funding will be available to 53 grant recipients for temporary shelter and other eligible costs associated with migrants, they claim, awaiting the outcome of their immigration proceedings. And even more important, notes, this $77 million, quote, builds on the more than $290 million announced through SSP in June of 2023. Again, that's the Shelter and Assistance Program, which brings the total funding allocated last year to more than $770 million. That's FEMA money, folks. Now, look, partly at least, right? It's a few different areas. This is another one from the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, from August of this year, just recently. Department of Homeland Security, August 2024. Today, the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, through the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, and the U.S. Customs Border Protection, CPB, announced the allocation of over $380 million through the Shelter and Services Program, SSP. And through the SSP, DHS directly supports communities that are providing critical support such as food, shelter, clothing, acute medical care, and transportation to non-citizens recently released from DHS custody and awaiting their immigration court proceedings, which may take, maybe a decade, right? And notes that FEMA, in coordination with CPB, is administering these SSP grants with state, local, and tribal governments, as well as non-governmental organizations to help prevent the overcrowding or short-term CBP holding facilities. In other words, the facilities of Customs Border Protection cannot hold the tens of millions of people, however much it is, maybe 7, 9 million, 10 million, who knows at this point. They say this funding augments the $259.13 million in SSP grants that DHS distributed in April of 2024. So in addition to that, right? Now, if you add that all up, it adds up to more than $1.4 billion. And look, these programs are raising concerns over why the Department of Homeland Security is declaring that FEMA doesn't have enough money for long-term relief efforts for hurricane season, as they publicly stated, right? If, for example, Alejandro Mayorkas, head of the DHS, is coming out and saying that they do not have, they have money for the current time, right now, right in front of us, current issue, they have the money for it. And when they say the rumors are fake, that's what they're suggesting, right? You can't say we don't have the money. We have enough immediate money. The issue is they're saying publicly they don't have enough money long term. They don't have enough money for the next disaster, which is going to make landfall this week, the one about to hit Florida. And, again, whoever thought that Appalachia would get hit by a hurricane. The way the hurricane behaved was very strange. So we don't really know how far this next one's going to reach. We don't know how it's going to behave given the very strange behavior of the recent one. But look, even beyond the issue of budget allocation and so on, it's causing a lot of people to compare the types of services being given to Americans who are right now suffering from disaster to the types of services being given to people who have illegally entered the country. And why are we paying upwards of $700 million a year to pay for their transportation, their medical care, their food, their clothing, and their housing? Should we be giving these types of services to anybody, let alone people who have illegally entered the United States? Again, that is the big issue being raised, and especially when it's being contrasted with American citizens who are suffering. That is what's making people angry. I would actually argue a lot of the discontent right now is not so much about whether the money was delegated or diverted, right? Which is the technicality it's on right now. But the fact that the money is being spent on it in the first place. Because Americans are saying, well, look, you will, delegate $1.4 billion to that. Why didn't you delegate that to the disaster relief program so you have enough money to get through hurricane season? Divert it or not, that's not the issue. The fact that you even spent it on that when it could have been used for Americans, that is the argument. And that's why a lot of people are very unhappy right now. Now, look, it's also in that context of, money for illegal immigrants that people are looking at what is being provided to Americans who have been affected by the hurricane. And one of the big claims going around is that Americans who have survived the disaster are only getting $750, it's like a one-time payment. There's some technicalities with that as well. I'll be talking about this, though, only on EpochTV.com. So those of you watching on YouTube, Facebook, X, Rumble, come and join us on EpochTV.com. Click the link in the description. And not only will you get access to the rest of my show, you'll also be able to join our live Q&A where I answer your questions. And before we continue, let me show you a quick trailer from my documentary, The Final War, the 100-year plot to defeat America, which you can also watch on EpochTV.com. And with that said, I'll see you all on the rest of this episode on EpochTV.com in just a short moment.
The greatest threat facing the United States is the CCP.
The Epoch Times investigation team had studied the CCP for years, but what we uncovered was yielding evidence beyond our imagination.
With Chairman Mao, with the Prime Minister, our talks have been characterized by frankness.
The Clinton administration said, oh, don't worry about it. This will be a poison pill for China.
China's strategic goal is to make sure that the U.S. has four enemies: and one of them must be a terrorist group.
We are giving of our life's blood so that the Chinese Communist Party can survive and thrive.